You are listening to episode 52 of the Let's Go Comic Show. On this episode, we talk about the new 52, collars, segmented armor, and retractable pants. This is episode 52 of the Let's Go Comic Show. My name is Justin.
And I'm Matt.
Man, are we excited to talk about all the comic books, all the comic book movies, all the comic book TV shows today.
Yes.
No, actually, we're not.
All of them that have to do with
The new 52.
The number 52.
None of them. Maybe a few DC Direct to videos. When we started this show, we were like, when we get to episode 52, we're going to talk about the new 52. And so with urgency, we're going to try to get through everything on this show. But first, Matt, what is our rating system? What is it based on? As we talk about the new 52, we're going to go.
Yeah, we're going to give our opinion.
Yeah, that's
going to
this.
That's going to be using the Let's Go rating system, which at the top of that is got to go.
That's right.
Below that is a Let's Go. Below that is a Go.
Preach it.
And below that is Don't Go.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the stuff on this list may be a don't go. There's not going to be a whole lot of
trash juice.
I was going to say there's not going to be a whole lot of gotta goes or let's goes. Guarantee you there's going to be some trash juice on this list, and we'll get to it very soon. So in May 2011, that's when all this Flashpoint, New 52 stuff kind of came to a head. I remember there was an event with Jeff Johns in LA. He was doing some signing. I think Jim Lee was supposed to be there. I'm a little fuzzy on it. And then I think everything started to leak out that there was this big event, something was happening. And then they just said, New 52 is happening in the fall of 2011.
And that was before the issue actually came out. So you knew something new was coming, but you didn't know
exactly
how or what.
You had no idea how. So the only thing that we knew was when Flash Rebirth happened, not like the Rebirth series we're going through right now, but there was like similar Rebirth. To Green Lantern Rebirth, Jeff Johns and Ethan Van Sciver were doing Flash Rebirth. They did 6 issues at the last, I believe it was the last issue of the Flash Rebirth, issue 6. There was an ad for Flashpoint. I'm like, what the heck's this all about? It was like, everything you know changes. And
just had a few like kind of really cryptic images.
Yeah.
And you knew that Andy Kubert was going to be drawing it.
Yeah. And I think originally it wasn't supposed to lead into the New 52. I think it was supposed to lead into some changes in the Flash universe.
Well, it wouldn't make sense for it to lead into the New 52 because the whole point of Flash Rebirth was reestablishing Flash like status quo in the Flash family, giving Wally West a specific role, giving Max Mercury and Liberty Bell. You know what I mean? Like
Bart and everybody.
All these different things, like a very specific set of roles to fill.
Yeah.
Was that pre or post Final Crisis? I feel like that was before Final Crisis.
Oh, man. No, I think it was after Final Crisis.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, I believe so. Correct me if I'm wrong, Internet, but I believe it was after Final Crisis. But anyway, so that happened, and then you hit fall, like all summer long. Like, it was kind of weird because some of the books started to like, they're starting.
Well, we went
was
to
like you were trying to wrap up.
That summer, too, that July, where now people had heard the announcements for a while, but it wasn't there yet. So it was this really interesting in-between point where people had a lot of questions on how the heck this was going to work out.
So many questions. Okay, so before we jump all the way into the deep end, Matt, how did we get there?
Well, we had an interesting, I think, status quo for the DC universe leading up to that. You had you're maybe not in the middle of, but you didn't feel like you were quite at the end of Grant Morrison's grand, huge, like spanning years Batman story.
Yeah. Oh, okay. There you go. Final Crisis was before that because all of, Bruce Wayne going back in time was after Final Crisis. Remember the Omega Sanction? Correct. So there we go. Okay.
And then he had the Batman main title that he was writing that was really interesting. Remember the issue that was in the future and Damian?
Yeah, that was Batman 666.
And he was fighting the 3 different like variations on Batman. Oh gosh, dude, it was so cool.
Yeah.
So you had that. You had the Batman Robin book where you had Dick Grayson
and
as
Damian.
Batman and Damian with him, which was still one of the best combinations of characters.
Great book, dude.
You had Red Robin.
Oh gosh, that was a good book,
which was an incredible book.
Yeah.
That's actually where I first came across the art of Francis Manapul because Marcus Toe was the main penciler for that.
I don't think he started. Someone else started, and then 4 issues in, Marcus Toe took over.
Really?
I believe.
Oh, man.
He wasn't doing it from the get-go.
I feel like that's something I should remember. But I remember Marcus Toe was
a different writer,
primary Christopher Yost.
Yeah, Christopher Yost and Fabian Nicieza, or sorry if I mispronounced that, but
so you had that, but then Francis Manapul started doing covers.
He did
a little way in. Like one of my favorites is you have Tim as Red Robin on his motorcycle, and flying right next to him is Connor Kent.
Yep.
Gosh, dude, it was such a good one.
And then he started doing...
That was the same time as Adventure Comics.
That's what I was getting to.
Adventure Comics with Jeff Johns and Francis Manapul.
Were you reminiscing about that?
Oh, dude. Just what could have been. Because it did feel like those... I'm just trying to name all the things that felt like they were cut short. Because Grant Morrison, he was... How many issues into Batman Incorporated at that point? When New 52 came?
Man.
It was probably like 5-ish?
I feel like... No, it was weird. I think it went to 11. Because there was a few... Yeah, it was...
So there's a decent amount into that story.
Yeah.
And then things changed. That was the Batman realm of things, which felt like kind of a...
Yeah, Dick Grayson
on the brakes,
Dick Grayson was Batman, but then by the end, before New 52, Batman came back. So there was two different Batmans.
That is true, because you had Detective Comics with Scott Snyder, which was Jock.
Oh, gosh. And Francis and Francavilla.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, Francesco Francavilla. He was doing the backups of the Gordon and the Gordon son. Yes. So there was a really good stuff coming out from DC. And then you had the whole, like, Jeff Johns Green Lantern epic going on. Like, him and
so
Tomasi was doing.
So you had just gone through the
Blackest
Sinestro
Night.
War. You had gone through Agent Orange.
Yeah, Rage of the Red Lanterns.
Yeah, all of these things building up to the War of Light. Mm-hmm. And then from there, what did that lead into? Blackest Night.
Yeah.
Which was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I think there's mixed reviews as far as, like, where it landed. But, again, I think Jeff Johns, it was another example of him kind of taking all the pieces and trying to place them back on the board in a way
that really brought us. I mean, that really brought us back. We were going from trades.
Stuff took us to single issues.
I think it took us from trades back into single issues. That's what it was. It was Blackest Night. I remember we were getting rings on it every time we'd go in. We just So there was a lot of cool stuff going on. Because I had trades
of all of the Jeff Johns run. Because you actually got me started on Green Lantern Rebirth. It was one of the things that really got me back into DC Comics back then.
It's good stuff.
So you had that realm of things, right? Blackest Night, but then that was Brightest Day, which is like one of the biggest in my mind
whole
still
year
that Jeff Johns has ever embarked on. Whereas this culmination of years of writing to really get key characters back into prominence.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say?
Mm-hmm. I 100% agree. It was supposed to. It was bringing back. So at the end of
literally bringing people back to life.
Yeah. After Blackest Night ended, it went into Brightest Day, and so part of that was the journey of Martian Manhunter, the Hawkman and Hawkgirl, Deadman,
Captain
Hawk
Boomerang
and Dove.
was back.
Yeah, Captain Boomerang. I'm trying to remember who else came back in those stories. Anyway, so you're following all these characters. There was actually a Justice League one too. That was Justice League International.
Reverse Flash came back.
Reverse Flash. So all these characters that you're like, oh, I want them to. It was funny because Hawkman already came back in like early 2000s, but
then he came back again.
Yeah, he died again. So, anyways, so you're really looking forward to these characters having a grand return.
And there was a huge rewrite for Hawkman and Hawkgirl specifically.
Yeah,
where it was just this
and Aquaman.
Really good weaving back in of their somewhat conflicting continuity into one story.
Yeah,
where it kind of made sense.
Yeah,
and then in the midst of all those stories, which seemed like
they were bringing back Shiera, not Kendra anymore.
So it seemed like a good set of stories, and right in the middle of that, we get this announcement of, hey, everything's going to be new.
Yeah, and we're like, what? It kind of felt like, though, they were going to roll everything from Brightest Day. I feel like they even communicated that into
something new, but then that ended up being the New 52, which really, once you get to the end of Flashpoint and you have that kind of starting to take place, you're like, oh, wait, hold on, what?
Yeah, this isn't the same.
It didn't feel like an ending to Flashpoint.
Yeah.
I remember feeling like I really enjoyed a lot of the stories in Flashpoint. I still think it was really well done.
Yeah.
But that ending just felt like...
It was a cool story.
It felt tacked on.
Yeah.
The ending, for sure.
It did. It felt like a way like, hey, we can change the entire universe based on Flashpoint. And you're like...
Yeah. So, I mean, let's talk about that. So, we're back up to speed, right? So, New 52 is happening. It's announced. It's coming in the fall of 2011. I feel like a good context for us to talk about it. Like, what were some of the goals, like, stated by, like, DC and their publishers of, like, what was New 52 setting out to accomplish?
Yeah, they didn't want to be bogged down by continuity. They wanted to attract new readers.
And there's a lot of continuity in DC.
A lot of continuity,
admittedly.
which I love. So that's I think their continuity. We'll talk about that. They wanted to have tell new stories and tell and younger stories. I guess they wanted to de-age everybody too. Like, they wanted to relate to like the young and hip people that ain't buying comics.
Yeah. Well, I think they wanted to. They always threw around like we want them to be more contemporary, more accessible. Like it was a lot of the terminology thrown around, right?
Yeah.
And they wanted new designs, new attitudes for characters. We saw in a lot of cases.
New attitudes.
Gosh, yeah. And we're not. I'm just stating the goals of like what it was. I'm not passing judgment yet.
I am. I'm totally.
But you don't want the continuity baggage. You don't want the baggage of all these prior relationships and experience and stuff. And you like, hey, we're coming in the ground level with these characters, right?
Yeah.
Another big thing for that is diversity of like representation in characters and in creators. Again, whether they did it or not, that's to be discussed. But then I think another key thing about New 52, which is funny because it doesn't feel like it should have. Sorry, I just said I'm not going to pass judgment while talking about digital release.
Yeah,
that was DC's first real push, like in general, to digital release same day for issues, and that was a pretty big deal for them.
Yeah,
and that
they actually tried to do
was their goal in trying to get more readers. Is hey, we're going to go digital. You don't have to go to a store. So the goal would be to revitalize like their line, right? I think that's fair. With diverse talent and characters and bring in new readers. And the things we were talking about, I guess would be more considered the strategy. Like, how are we going to do that? Digital release same day. We're going to, have younger, less baggage for the characters.
More hotter.
Less continuity, all of that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So then I think if we talk about the goals and strategy, then that frees us up to talk about our opinions about how the execution of those goals and strategies go.
When you look back at the New 52 now, so it started in 2011, we're in 2018. So you look back 7 years ago, which, God, sounds like a long time ago. Oh, my gosh. Like, what was the stuff that has lasted? Court of Owls. Like, that's something that is already made it to TV. It's already a part of that Gotham show, whether you watch that show or not. Court of Owls is now part of the Batman, like, history. Like, and I think it's a strong piece. I think most of the stuff that Snyder and Capullo did on the Batman title is good stuff. Minus
out of the gate.
Yeah. Minus like I'm not a big fan of Zero Year and Super Heavy and those stories, but they did a lot of good stuff. Justice League by Jeff Johns is good, and Jim Lee at the start, and even everyone else who came on. You had Jason Fabok who came on. You had Yvonne Rice, or however you want to say that. Like the Batman and Robin by Peter Tomasi and Patrick Gleason. Sorry, I actually think, like in my opinion, I think that book was stronger than the Batman book.
Interesting.
But I just liked it.
Okay, but Batman number 5 was when Batman is like stuck in the labyrinth of the Court of Owls.
Yeah.
And he's like starting to like lose it, and the pages are like printed in different directions.
It was weird.
You have to rotate the book to actually read it.
Yeah.
That was cool.
That was cool.
That was really, really good.
Yeah.
I thought there was something. I remember thinking, like, in a way, I was bummed that it was Bruce back into it, just because I enjoyed what Snyder was doing with Dick Grayson as Batman.
Yeah.
But I feel like he continued the feel. There's this really just, like, ominous, like, oppressive, like, encroaching kind of feel to the Batman stories that he was telling.
Yeah.
And he brought that into the main Batman title. But then you have Capullo on art instead of Jock, which just it feels a little more just like rock and roll, like exciting. You know what I mean? And so that combination of stuff, I still look back on some of those things and I'm like, man, that was just really, really solid.
There was more good books that kept coming out. Sorry, to get back to the books.
Yeah.
Swamp Thing was good. I read a few.
Yeah.
I think you actually bought more of Swamp Thing.
Yeah,
I was reading a lot
So that was
of it.
also Scott Snyder, and then Yannick Paquette for most of the art. He was a good portion of it. That was really great, but I think you can't talk about that without also talking about Animal Man.
Yeah.
So Jeff Lemire and Travel Foreman doing that.
Yeah.
And those were kind of like two sides of the same coin, because that's really where DC dug in on like the plant-themed like characters where they get their power. It's this thing called the green.
Yeah.
And the animal-based ones, they're called the red.
Yeah.
And I'll give it to them. Like, I feel like that was a good attempt at trying to make sense of all of these different things, and also trying to unify a bunch of characters that felt like disparate, like separate characters, where you're like, oh, they kind of share this thing.
Yeah.
And then that also feeds into the third party in that idea and that concept, which is the Rot.
Oh yeah, that's
which
right.
is you have the bad guys, but then you also like played into that a little bit with another one of my. It just seemed like the most random book, but I liked it a lot. Was Frankenstein, Agent of Shade.
Yeah.
And so those three books came together at some point for a crossover. That I like enjoyed it a lot, especially. Yeah, Swamp Thing was really good. I would say Animal Man edged it out a little bit if I had to pick a favorite.
Oh, really?
Out of those.
Okay.
There's just something about it. The art was really compelling. It was really kind of crazy. And I felt like I had never experienced a comic book in general, and DC specifically, that had just been so okay with just diving into straight up horror comics.
Well, those few books, they felt very Vertigo. It's not the same, though. It's definitely not the same.
No, it definitely feels a little different.
Yeah.
But I think what's interesting, and that reminds me, like another thing that DC did as part of their strategy was incorporating Vertigo and Wildstorm characters.
Oh, yeah. So bringing Constantine.
That was a pretty big deal. So Constantine was in it. Animal Man was Vertigo at that point. Mm-hmm. Swamp Thing had primarily been Vertigo. Yeah. Then Wildstorm characters like Stormwatch. So you had Midnighter and Apollo.
Yeah.
And Voodoo and Grifter, Zealot.
The whole Stormwatch deal. Mm-hmm. So real quick before I remember.
Sorry, just to go back to I forgot that's kind of a key thing that for New 52.
Yeah, no, they bringing all those universes together
and a little bit of Milestone. I think they tried.
They tried with Static Shock, and they don't know how to handle Milestone. I don't know why they don't know how to do it, but with Swamp Thing, I remember that wasn't initially a New 52 book. That was just going to be a DC.
It was just going to be a DC book
because Swamp Thing was part of the whole Brightest Day thing as well. Remember, he was the White Lantern.
He was kind of a key thing. He was part of Star City, like that forest.
Yeah, the forest. Yeah, remember? Oh, that was so fun.
Man, that was such a cool story. Yeah. Sorry, it just makes me sad.
It makes you sad, the potential that these stories had, and so there was a lot of. I think you can even look it up if you use Google. Like they had to redraw Superman's costume because he's in that first issue of Swamp Thing.
Yeah,
and they had to change his costume to like the New 52
it's
version.
True.
I gotta add some segments. Gotta add some armor and kick them shorts off of him. Get those shorts off, Superman.
I also can't talk through New 52 books without talking about the Flash run. Francis Manapul, Brian Buccellato. That was 25 issues, twice as long as Francis Manapul's run that he was on Jeff Johns with. It wasn't a perfect book, but it was really good.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was really, really good, and I will tell you that is still one of my most favorite looking books. Like when I think of like my favorite Flash art, a good share of that is from that run.
It was moving. There was movement to it, which is a Flash book. It should feel that way. It didn't feel.
And it was exciting. It was different. It was taking risks that a lot of other books weren't, honestly.
Yeah.
In that same way, at least, like with layouts specifically. And I think like there's all of these like specific books, but then. At least in my experience, I hadn't experienced DC branching out into different styles of books so much.
Yeah, the Western book.
Yeah, the Western book.
Which one was that? That was
War book.
Hey, we're gonna do like the Men of War book. They did, they tried to do sci-fi stuff with like Stormwatch and things like that. Horror with Animal Man, Justice League Dark. I actually really like Justice League Dark. They did Demon Knights.
OMAC was like a really different book. But then you also gave like characters a chance, like Mr. Terrific, like the Blackhawks, like Hawk and Dove, like. Mm-hmm. And I can appreciate when you're like, hey, let's give someone a chance.
iVampire, yeah. They were really.
Yeah, iVampire was a different type
GI
of book.
Combat, Dial H. That was like in the second wave. I remember I got Dial H for a little bit. Earth 2. There was just some stuff that they tried, and I think that's one of the things that they did put out there. They were going to try,
and that was pretty consistent over the 4 years that it ran.
Yeah,
you had like Sword of Sorcery, Phantom Stranger, Team 7. Like I was like, good for you guys, like for actually trying some different stuff. Resurrection Man, I think, was actually one of the first wave.
Yeah, and that came back because that was a book they had in the 90s, I believe.
Resurrection Man came back. Surprised.
Hey.
Living up to the name.
Hello.
Blue Beetle got a good bump from that.
Yeah. I didn't think the Blue Beetle book was good.
No, it wasn't.
Like they just don't. I don't know, man.
I know, man. I know.
I like the Jaime Reyes concept. I just think that New 52 version was just So Hawk and Dove. All right, so we got the good out of the way. No, I want to say Justice League Dark was a really fun book. I would add that to a concept because it's coming back. I would add that to a concept that worked. So you had Harley Quinn and Suicide Squad. That was made it to the movies. That was something that people dug on and that connected with people.
Green Lantern was a big deal when that launched as well.
Yeah, well, that was because that was at the end of pre-New 52. That was two things to talk about. The Batman books and the Green Lantern books kind of kept going.
Yeah, so they were continuity package except for the ones that are still working.
Yeah, it was really weird because
it was cherry picked.
It was cherry picked, and the hard part was if a book like Green Lantern survives the New 52 and moves forward, but the biggest storyline of those books that just ended last year, Blackest Night, how do you reconcile that with the new universe? Because there was like zombie Superman from like Earth 2 there. Like that doesn't exist anymore. Like a lot of these issues. Well, yeah.
And you had Action Comics and Justice League books, their first arc at least, were taking place 5 years before all of the other books.
Yeah. And so it was really weird in like if you're gonna say that no, Green Lantern's the same Green Lantern he's been, then if Hal Jordan lost his mind and went through Rebirth, that was all predicated upon Reign of the Superman and like Cyborg Superman blowing up Coast City, and that didn't happen with this.
It's all tied together.
It's all tied together, but how? But that never happened. Like
that's what I'm saying. That's why it's a problem. It's because it's all tied together.
But then they would say, well, Superman did die, but it happened earlier. And so they never released a list of like, well, what the heck happened and what didn't happen? Because at the beginning they said year one is in continuity. And then guess what? No, it's not. It's not in continuity. We're going to do 0 year. Never mind. So DC never knew what the heck like their timeline was. And so it was kind of like it's in continuity until we say it's not in continuity. And so it was, as a reader, it was really hard because you're like, I like the history. The history wasn't a problem.
Yeah.
It's just tell good stories. And so I think I want to save that for the end. So let's move into the bad. Let's move into the things that were like...
Well, some misses.
Yeah.
We'll call them misses.
The misses.
Can I say one of the first ones?
Please.
That I think of?
Yeah.
Because we talked about the Batman book. We didn't talk about Detective Comics that launched with Tony Daniel.
Yeah.
And how at the end of the first issue, Joker gets his face cut off.
I would say that's one of those things that... I don't know if it was a hit or a miss, but it's
I did not.
I didn't like it.
That.
It was weird. I'm like, how is like later on his daughter's wearing his face? Like that thing would just be like a...
I think Scott Snyder made it work with Death in the Family.
Yeah, but it was super creepy. It was weird. Like, but it's still something that you see. I saw it at WonderCon 2 weeks ago. People still have that costume,
In my opinion, I'll say. I thought it was.
Yeah, it was. Overall, Tony Daniels is a fantastic artist. He's not a good writer. He's just not.
Did Finch do some of that too?
No, Finch had his own book. Finch had Batman Dark Knight. Remember?
Yes, that's what it was. Okay.
Yeah, because I think
there's a lot of Batman.
That was volume 2 because he had a Dark Knight book already, pre-New 52. Because remember when Batman came back from being Omega sanctioned and after he, Return of Bruce Wayne, he had the new Batman Inc. costume.
Yep,
which I really like that costume with the oval.
I know you
love the oval, dude. So all the Mr. Freeze origin, Scott Snyder actually wrote that, and I will say that's one huge mistake that Scott Snyder made was instead of him being married to Nora and loving her and trying to like find a way, like instead of him being a tragic character, he became an obsessed freaking like weirdo stalker character instead. I was like, that sucked. Big time.
You kind of lost the tragedy of that character that gave you empathy for him.
The one thing that from the animated series that everyone loved,
right?
They even put it in Batman and Robin to an extent. They had that same that same like that motivation that he had, and like, oh yeah, no, he's not tragic. You don't have any type of sympathy for him. He's just a freaking weirdo.
He's just gross.
Yeah.
So we talked about the awesome Red Robin series leading up to New 52.
Yeah.
Their change, not only in Tim Drake's costume, but in his origin, was that's just unforgivable. Like that was horrible.
It was really weird. It was like he was in
witness protection.
And it was bad.
And Drake wasn't really his last name.
Yeah, and he's always been Red Robin. He was never Robin. He didn't feel like he can handle the mantle of
Not
Robin.
even like a good Red Robin.
What was up with his costume with the wings, dude? I hated that.
Oh,
that
dude,
costume.
That just makes us talk about costumes.
Yeah. Scott Lobdell on Teen Titans, that was bad too.
Very bad.
Just saying. Teen Titans in general was bad. Red Hood and Outlaws. It is bad.
They actually got a lot of flack for how they treated characters like Starfire, Catwoman.
Yeah, okay, so
like they really it felt exploitative.
Very exploitative. I was going to say, like the Catwoman book, I think I bought a few of them digitally. Like I didn't buy everything. I was trying digital at that point. Like I was like, oh, I'm gonna jump on this. I'm gonna smell some of the floppies, but I'll swipe that screen. That book, I was just like, this is. Yeah, it was weird, man. Yeah, the Starfire stuff was really bad. They played up the innocence of that character and made her overtly sexual in ways that you didn't need to go there with that character. And Scott Lobdell tried to like make a claim for why it worked, and it just didn't. It was cheap. It was just kind of garbage. So
I think a lot of things that people make fun of now, because everyone's making fun of how everyone had matching collars in the Justice League when this came out.
Which was really interesting because one of the things that they said, here's why we got rid of the belt on Superman and all this other stuff. Because when the Justice League stand there, we didn't want everyone to have yellow belts. Batman has a yellow belt, Superman has a yellow belt, Aquaman has a yellow belt. So we wanted to change things up. And I'm like, but you gave everybody collars. Superman's got a collar, Aquaman's got a collar, Green Lantern's got a collar, Wonder Woman's got a choker now. It's like basically insinuating.
Well, and you had two different versions of Wonder Woman's costume.
That's right.
Leading up to it. So you had one with pants and then one without. Retractable pants, man. My love for Jim Lee art, specifically that from the 90s.
Fantastic.
Is well documented on this show. Go back and listen from episode 1. I talked about it. As much as I love his art, he should not design characters.
I bet you when he goes to like Nordstrom's, he's like, I'm going to buy myself. I got to get some belts. I need
some buckles.
He's buckles
I need
and
some
belts.
Pockets.
Pouches. You guys got pouches?
Pouches?
You guys sell pouches here? They're like, no, Mr. Lee, we do not sell pouches. He's like, you guys got to sell pouches. He's like, I guess I'll go to the...
Need more pouches.
He goes to the surplus store. He's like, hey, can you guys put some pouches around my leg? I'm like, why? I just want to store some coins and
I like this
T-shirt,
mix. But there's not enough lines
There's not enough lines, yeah.
Can we put more seams on this?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, these poor artists, man.
The Flash costume bummed me out when I first saw it.
And that's the thing. That's still here. That same look is still there.
And they're in the show.
Yeah, they are.
So with the Flash costume, added the little chin strap.
Yeah.
Piece
chin strap,
thing. I don't know what you would call it. But then all the extra lines and stuff. And I'm telling you, like, there's this idea that we like to talk about. It's called polishing a turd.
Yep.
And Francis Manapul polished the hell out of that turd.
Yeah, he
by
did.
making his costume look cool when it came onto him.
Like the lighting and stuff.
And all the different pieces and stuff. Like he made it work.
Yeah. You know what didn't work? Superman's costume.
Oh gosh.
Oh, God.
The little things go over the top of the back of his hand.
Yeah.
The kind of the points that kind of came
But
out.
the worst part was like it would just emanate. It was like Kryptonian, like kryptology. It would just emanate from his chest and be on him like the plates. It was like
Superman is indestructible.
Yeah.
He doesn't need armor.
Yep.
He doesn't need armor.
Nope, he doesn't.
There's no reason for armor. Sorry, I don't even have more than that sentence. Like it's
segmented Kryptonian, like regal wear is what it was. Let's go back
Robin's
to
costume. We talked about
Red
that.
Robin's costume. Let's talk about the Robins.
Rough.
So in this compressed timeline, everything happened in 5 years. So Batman, Bruce Wayne, has taken on 5 different freaking Robins in 5 years, right? Or
Only
4.
Oh, it was just Dick, Jason, and Damian.
Damian and Tim. They're all Robins. So if Batman only has been doing this stuff for about 5 years, Damian's 13, how does that work? Because Talia had to hook up with Bruce Wayne at some point. So didn't they say he was like grown in some type of a test tube or some crap?
I don't know. Going back to talking about how we were at Comic-Con that year.
Yeah.
Someone asked Eddie Berganza the timeline, how it all worked out. And he's like, oh, we're going to have like a thing to give you guys in, like this timeline to show you how it
There's
all
no
works.
thing.
There's literally nothing. Like I Googled, I'm like, maybe I missed it. Nope.
They never did. They said, I remember that. They said they were going to put something out.
Killing Joke happened.
Yeah.
This other thing happened, but...
Okay, which is funny. Killing Joke happened, right? But now, I hope this doesn't sound disrespectful or insensitive, but Barbara Gordon's character, her being an Oracle, I thought was a really cool way to deal with a story. A lot of people were like, man, I don't know if we like that. A lot of people were against like Batgirl getting shot and how everything went down. It was super gruesome and dark, right? But what they did is like they took a story, which what I love about it is like that's if you think about comics, that's life. That happened. They took it and they made her strong.
Yeah.
She moved forward and she became Oracle, and that character means something, right? And what I liked about it is that, there's representation right there. They took this character who's had her legs taken away from her, and she's still like one of the strongest characters in the DC universe because she eventually evolved from just helping Batman to helping the Justice League of America and things like that. And so we lose that. And one of the things that they said, which was such a cheap way out, was like, well, Batman depended on Oracle too much. Like he wasn't a detective anymore. He was always like asking Oracle. And I was like, instead of talking to Oracle, he would just say, Penny 1. He'd be talking to Alfred instead. He'd be like, hey, go get me them plans, Alfred. Go get me. So instead of it being Oracle, it was Alfred. So I felt that was really cheap and weak. And what they ended up doing is they destroyed the legacy that they had going on with Stephanie Brown. She was a really fun Batgirl, and they destroyed that. And
that was another thing before the New 52. Really great series with her as a Batgirl.
Yeah,
and as a legacy Batgirl, which was like hadn't been done really all that much before. I mean, Cassandra Cain, but
yeah, well, there was Cassandra Cain, which people like too, and they finally put out this ending book of Batman Incorporated, or it was like this bridging book, and it had Stephanie Brown, and she was there. They just couldn't work their way out of that. Legacy informed a lot of their representation. And when they got rid of their legacy, they lost a lot of their established representation, which they just brought more representation in, but it felt like DeLon said a couple of episodes, microwaved diversity.
Because I think that's a great point. And I think one we've talked about on the show before is that legacy is like has traditionally been one of DC's greatest strengths.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think it was something that was very clearly done away with for New 52, like intentionally.
Yeah, it's a bummer, man. So they got rid of
Kid Flash was gone.
Kid Flash is gone. Wally West gone. Donna Troy's gone. Most of that Teen Titans
Connor Kent was there, but in a really weird way.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't the same.
That's one of the saddest. But when you go to the Rebirth, you're almost like Jonathan Kent. You like him so much that you're like, if I can't have Connor Kent, I'll take Jonathan Kent. But man, Connor Kent was a cool character at the end.
It's true.
No more Kents. The Kents are dead.
Yeah,
Superman
you have
has no
all
more
of
parents.
these things that are ties to the past and to tradition and a lineage are gone. Like the JSA, gone.
But then they kind of brought it back on Earth too, but it wasn't the same.
It wasn't the same.
It was just like
it was still like, hey, we're young and cool.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about that real quick. The young and cool part. Like everyone's young, everyone's like 25, below 30. Yeah. Did it really matter in any of the stories?
No.
Were you reading a story and going, man, that Superman feels like he's only 26 years old? It didn't matter. They didn't even look that different. They tried to not draw as many lines
Superman
in the face.
and Batman meet each other for the first time in the Justice League, the opening issue.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, what's your power? Or something stupid like that. I'm like, you just sound dumb.
Yeah.
Like you're I think you're supposed to sound like cocky and like self-assured, but you just sound kind of dumb, man.
Yeah. The only stuff that I liked in that Justice League, that first storyline, because I actually liked the Jeff Johns Justice League series. It was pretty.
In general, it was good.
In general, it was good. That opening story arc was pretty. It was pretty goofy. I know the ice cream scene made it to the Wonder Woman movie, so there you go. There's some New 52 legacy. I like the stuff between Green Lantern and Batman. Mm-hmm. Like that was cool. I even liked a little bit of the Flash and Green Lantern.
They could have used that in the Justice League movie. I'm just saying. That opening scene would have been incredible.
Oh gosh, yeah! If Green Lantern was in the movie, that would have been
with parademons.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, I think that's
what. It's like there's something already made for you, DC.
Yeah,
to follow.
I think that's what it was pulled from. I think a lot of that was pulled from that, at least inspired. But so the Aquaman book was really good.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of these books, the things
Jeff
that
Johns was writing Aquaman.
The things that worked well: Aquaman, Swamp Thing, Justice League Dark, the continuation of the Green Lantern stories. Those didn't need New 52. Those could have happened regardless of New 52 or not. Yeah. You can tell if you read them, there's nothing oh, this only happened because of New 52. I think here's what the New 52 should have done.
Here, can I say one more thing before you go into that? Because I think that's a valid point.
Yeah.
The relationships were the other part. Of
okay, yes.
That were nixing literally all relationships.
Yeah.
Superman, Lois Lane? Nope.
Done.
Aquaman and Mera?
I think at first they were married, dude. And then they were like, oh, no, they're not married.
Yeah, it was dumb.
Yeah.
Green Arrow and Black Canary? Nope.
They never even knew each other.
Flash and Iris Allen?
Not a thing.
Nope. Had a completely different girlfriend.
Yeah.
It's, you know what I mean? It was just this weird stuff where, again, it felt very arbitrary because what are you accomplishing in that?
Yeah.
Other than making Superman and Wonder Woman a couple, which just felt forced, and I don't think anyone was ever really all that into.
No one cared.
did that actually add anything to their stories? Because the stories that were good because they were good stories, not because the character was young or didn't have these entanglements and stuff. Because even like one of the really big deals, and it caused like, was it J.H. Williams that was doing Batwoman?
Yeah, he's doing Batwoman.
To like say like, oh, I'm done with this book, is because there was directive from the publisher to not let her get married to her love interest at the time. And I actually pulled this from an article, like pulled up an article from years ago that Dan Didio explained that the major superheroes in the Batman family books should not get married because finding true happiness would undermine the angst and turmoil that typify those characters and their commitment to the superhero lives they lead.
I need angst.
I need angst and no getting married, which is fascinating to see where we're at in 2018 and one of the best stories consistently and what that involves.
There you go. I remember talking about that with you. Like, so we aren't as interesting, or we don't have...
Or life is less complicated.
Yeah, it's not like...
Because you have a wife and kids. Like, that's not how it works.
Yeah, and then going back to Rebirth now, Superman stories have been 100% better. Like, you want to see Superman with Lois. You want to see...
Because that complicates it. He can't just do whatever he wants.
Exactly. There's another layer of like, I'm going to save the world. I also need to come home and make sure I eat dinner. You know, like I got a kid. It's like
when you're creating anything, the limitations you place on it is what force you to come up with creative solutions.
Yeah. Editorial was really weird on these things. Like they would like enforce things and do changes. Gail Simone walked off of her book too, off of Batgirl, I think, for like 2 weeks.
She was informed that she was leaving. Didn't realize it. They put a replacement on for 2 weeks, and people like lost their mind.
Yeah.
And she was back on after that 2-issue stint where the person filling in was. And then the other one was a big deal in New 52 as George Perez was writing Superman, the main book.
Yeah.
He left after 6 issues.
I want to talk about that. Okay, so let's I know we're all over the place. That's poor Superman. New 52 Superman is the worst Superman ever. Like, he's so bad they killed him. He's dead. He went out like a hero at the end. He's dead. Dad. He was so crappy, dude. His stupid costume, his stupid...
He was a stupid corn dog.
Face. He was a stupid corn dog. He was, dude. He was the stupid corn dog of the DC Universe, New 52. He, if you're going to have this initiative to bring on new writers and new artists, and we're going to youngify everything... And I don't say this in disrespect. Why are you going to bring on George Perez? Like, he's the oldest. He's like 60-something years old.
That's a great...
And he's drawing and writing Superman.
So not just that.
Yeah.
Who do we bring on for Hawkman and a few other books?
Frickin' Rob Liefeld. That's a whole... Who do we bring on for Teen Titans and Red Hood and the Outlaws? Scott Lobdell. Who's drawing the main Justice League book and redesigning all of our characters? Jim
Lee. Who's writing OMAC and a couple of these other ones, Phantom Stranger and stuff, Dan Didio. Who out of all of those things sound like something fresh in 2011?
Zero. I just don't know what they were thinking when they started this initiative. No, there's a little bit of me that feels like they rushed the New 52 because it's very telling that 7 issues in the series, that's when they rebrand the DC logo and stuff. They did that Page Pill logo.
Oh yeah,
because they still had the same DC Comics logo the first 7 months in.
And that was right around the time where a lot of teams changed. Creative teams on books. Very true.
Yeah, a lot of people jumped off and got kicked off.
A lot of fill-ins, a lot of that kind of stuff. Yeah. And just in that first year. And what's really interesting is they only did a few of them, but they had kind of these. Every year they would do kind of like a gimmick or like an event, whatever. Do you remember when they were going to do the WTF certified?
Yeah. Oh, I remember that.
With the crazy covers.
Yeah.
But then they like walked back.
Oh, we can't do
actually
that.
Having that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just not thought through, guys.
Yeah.
Hey, this is cool. This is something the kids are doing. You know what it reminds me of, and I brought it up before, is Steve Buscemi's character in 30 Rock. Mm-hmm. It's like a PI.
Yeah.
And he's trying to talk to kids at the high school, and it's like fellow young people or something like stupid like that. Like it's that. And I was like, you guys don't have to do that. Just tell good stories.
And there we go. I think if they wanted to do the new DC New 52, do 52 new books, and maybe you had to renumber them. I don't know. It was that was hard for me too. Like Action and Detective, which now they're back at their numbers. You know, I wish we'd go back to original Batman numbering. To be honest, like all those books, take them back. You know, take them back to where they were. The whole like initiative felt very weird. Like they wanted to do something. It felt like a very fast, like let's get a lot of readership, because they pushed hard. They had commercials, and we're gonna put one of the commercials on the show notes and stuff. But they pushed it in the theater. They pushed it on TV. I remember seeing the DC Comics like New 52 like commercial on TV. I remember seeing it. Like it was a big deal, and it felt exciting, and I think it brought a lot of new people in the comics. Even today, like on Twitter, I put it out there, and most people's thoughts were pretty much the same. They were like, it got me back in the comics. I was buying, I started to buy more and more like single issues. Like it worked for us. It brought us, Blackest Night brought us in, but it got us to start thinking about like, yeah, dude, this is it was a big deal. I remember I had a friend who was working with us at work. He was helping us out, volunteering. He got excited about it. And then know what happened? Because he got really pumped up by Green Lantern. And then he was like, wait,
yeah.
He got confused. He's like, so all this stuff that I read doesn't matter anymore? I'm like, I don't know.
Well, and that's what I would push back against. I don't think that's a fair saying. Like, stories exist.
They exist.
Once they start, they exist. Like, those stories don't not exist anymore. But what you're looking for is how do they all fit together?
Exactly.
And I think that's a fair question.
Yeah.
Because it's not fair to say, like, that story doesn't matter anymore. I was like, well, if it matters to you, it matters. Like, that doesn't change.
I want to read some of the tweets we got. So Jay Oz, who always like hits us up, one of the things he says, trying new things with offbeat series was admirable and inspired. So he says, Men of War, OMAC, All-Star Western, stuff like that. Yep. Whether it was a good idea or a bad idea, it led to rebirth and the general greatness of the past 2 years. In the end, it got people reading comics, which was good. So overall, yes, it got people reading comics. But how many? Like, as I was doing some research, it really said new readership really only increased by 5%. It brought old readers back a little bit, and then it kind of leveled. Like, oh, this is unfamiliar to me, and it's not what I wanted. All we want as comic book readers is good stories. Like how. Yep. I don't know. I'm going to say how hard is that, but maybe it is hard. Maybe there's not enough like new voices coming in. You get like every once in a while you get a Scott Snyder, and you're getting like a Tom King. You get a Tomasi. These guys that are writing good stories that you're like, oh, I want to keep checking that out.
Yeah.
Like then you kind of get the old guard. And here's the thing. I don't think someone who's been writing for a long time is necessarily bad. There are people that get tired.
I think it's good.
Yeah. I think there's people that just. Maybe they're just tired. Maybe they move on. They need to move on to a different book. You get the Lobdales. I'm like, what are they doing? Like, who's like?
He wrote the movie Happy Death Day that came out last year.
Oh, really? There you go.
It's the weirdest thing to see that come up in the credits.
Yeah. I was like, Rob Meyer said, how many books were you reading when New 52 started, and how soon did you start spoiling the books? I don't know what that means. Like spoiling, like telling people about them, or like quitting them. I don't know. And what did you read till the end? He said, for me, the New 52 brought me back to comics. Some things I didn't like, but overall it won me over after 10 years away. So it brought him back, and he's still, he has a whole podcast dedicated to the Tim Drake character. So it brought him back to getting like monthly comics. So, and then we have Brent, for his handle is Brent AC Prime. And I wanted to just give a shout out. He has a show, Fans Without Borders. So check them out at Borderless Fans on Twitter. So just go to squadcastmedia.com. You can find him. How about overall a failure that they wisely walked back? And so look at most people's consensus on New 52. Oh man, it brought me back to comics, but it didn't really go well. Like most people's feelings are, it wasn't a good idea. Even DC, I feel like now is like, yeah, it kind of sucked. Like it wasn't what we wanted it to be. And people kind of got soured on it.
How do you feel like they walked that back? Like, how do we make our way out of New 52 to where we are now?
I think they tried when they started getting into like post Convergence. They started to try to bring like
Convergence
Superman
was
back in.
That
was kind of it, because they even did those comics.
That was 4 years in.
Yeah, that was 4 years in. They did those like,
and they kept branding New 52 until Convergence.
Yeah, it's a big mishmash because as we talk more and more stuff comes back to me. But we got to the DCU,
like YOU.
Yeah. And that's when we got the Batgirl of Burnside. We got the We Are Robin. Gotham Academy.
Where Duke Thomas first came in.
Yeah, Prez, stuff like that. I think that was kind of the new, like, oh, they were trying to do something new, which is good. Like, I'm always for trying
the Black Canary
new
book
things.
for that was really cool too.
Yes. Okay. Black Canary. Yeah. So taking concepts like, let's just do completely fresh stuff. I think at that point they were like, we got to try something different.
And those actually felt fresh. They actually had that Dr. Fate book also.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Was pretty cool.
Maybe that was like, let's see what sticks. Let's try.
Yeah.
Because you still had, Batman was doing well. Justice League was doing well. Everything else was like faltering. Like Superman wasn't doing good. Wonder Woman, once, because I didn't even mention that. Wonder Woman was like, I really actually like that book a lot with Azzarello and
was it Cliff Chang?
Cliff Chang. I liked it. I didn't like the blue boots on Wonder Woman, but whatever. like
for me, after a while for New 52, it just got hard to keep up.
Yeah, it did. I lost interest big time
after a while.
I only stuck with Batman. The only books I was reading, and I completely stopped buying them physically. I would just buy them digitally. I would actually buy Injustice on digital. I would buy the Batman 66 stuff. I would buy, Batman and Robin, and I would buy Justice League. And
I stopped buying for a while. I actually would just read about what was coming out and kind of keep up that way in kind of news sites. It's like Justice League 3000. Like I never read that.
Oh, I read a little bit of that.
Or Future's End.
Yeah.
Never really read that. I read a little bit of Forever Evil and got a few of those. I think that's when I was starting to
Forever Evil is when I jumped out, mostly.
Because I have the Rogues Rebellion mini, and I think that was one of the last things I got around that time.
And that was 30 issues in, I think, right? When
that was
Forever
about 2
Evil,
years
20, in.
Because the first year, 1 year in, they did the 0 month or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then they did the villains, issues, right?
That
was like, instead of Flash, it was Reverse Flash or whatever. That was 2 years in. I think it was right after that. So not exactly 2 years in. So yeah.
I just remember a bunch of hologram covers that were really hard to get at one point. And I was like, forget this junk, dude. I'm done. I didn't care anymore. And that sucked because I really love these characters. And I was burned out by it. Like, you don't have to change so many things. Like, this isn't a huge character, but like Lobo. There's something about Lobo. I think he works in small doses. I like him like in the video game Injustice, not Injustice 2, but Injustice.
Yeah.
I just like this big biker guy who's kind of gruff, and he's a bounty hunter. Lobo, I feel like he's fun when he encounters Superman, and he just kind of, he pops in like, oh, okay, I'm glad I got to see him again. They turned him into this like weird like Twilight version of Lobo. And he just like, he looked like,
I remember that.
Yeah, Dave Navarro. He looked like Dave Navarro, freaking Lobo. And I was like, what? And he killed him, and then Lobo came back, and then because Lobo was actually in the New 52. I think he was in like the Destro book or something, like Rob Liefeld did, and it's just it was like they didn't have a plan. They didn't know what the heck they were doing, and they just started throwing people on books. Like Rob Liefeld, do you want to write this? Want to draw this? Tony Daniels, can you write? Cool. Start writing stuff. It worked for Image in 1991. Let's try it 20 years later and see.
And that's the biggest thing. What the New 52 felt like. It felt like the 90s again. Which wasn't fresh in 2011.
It was not.
You're trying to replicate something 20 years later.
Yeah, man. Kind of a bummer, especially after the year of waiting to get through Brightest Day. This is what we got.
Yeah, kind of that mixed bag for 4 years and some change, man.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's in a good spot now, man.
We're in a good spot
feel like
now.
It's a pretty good spot. So, man, I feel like we pretty well covered that New 52.
Yeah, I'm sure there's things that we forgot, and there's more. And
let us know what we forgot.
Yeah, if we forgot something, or if you feel like, oh, you missed this, or this.
What'd you
really
love?
Great.
What'd you hate?
What'd you love? What'd you hate?
What worked? What didn't?
Maybe you're a huge DC like New 52 fan, and that was your jam, and that's cool. And I think if it brought you into comics, which it sounds like it did, it brought people back.
Yeah,
that's cool. I was reading another thing today about someone who was like, oh, they came in on New 52, and then when they learned more about DC's history, they got upset. Like, why did they not continue on with this? And that's true. DC has such a rich history. I think they should embrace it more. And if I had to go back and change what I was saying, I would say that's what's been great about Rebirth is embracing the legacy they had.
Yep.
Because that part is cool, and it may seem like it might be confusing to people, but it's not. Because I got in the comics when I was in my teens. I didn't get confused. At first, I was like, "Who's Wally West?" And I figured it out because I bought more comics because they were good.
And we didn't even have Google. Could explain literally all of that to you.
I just had to go back. I just had to buy the comics. I'm like, I guess I'll buy more Flash comics from this guy with a beard. Hey, guy with the beard, sell me some Flash comics. And then I figured out what happened. I was like, oh, Flash died. Crisis. I got to buy Crisis. I bought Crisis. I figured it all out. So people aren't dumb. Embrace your legacy.
Yeah.
Hire creators with a passion.
In my mind, Rebirth is kind of addressing those core things we talked about, right? That were kind of misses for it. Mm-hmm. It embraces legacy, and it's embracing relationships in a huge way. And it's, costumes, they're getting there.
Yeah.
They're making them better bit by bit.
Yeah.
Purple capes are good, but Justin's a hater.
Not a fan of purple capes, So, yeah, I look forward to, let's see more of, Jonathan Kent, Super Sons, Duke Thomas. Let's see more of that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Let's see more of the Young Animal. Let's see more of crazy stories, and which they're probably doing with that Black Label stuff. And so, yeah.
Cool.
Good job, DC.
People want to hit you up about New 52 and all the stuff that you're wrong about. How would they do that, Justin?
They would do that at J_Rocca on Twitter. Yeah. What about you, dude?
At Matt Ritchie on Twitter.
Yeah, and you can hit the show up at Let's Go Comic Show on Twitter and Instagram. You can go to www.letsgocast.com to find this show and other shows that we like to sponsor. Please buy some merch from us. Go and get some merch. Go to the merch tab, click on that, and it'll take you to a magical place where you can buy all types of Let's Go merchandise that helps support the show. And if you just want to continue to support the show, go to patreon.com/letsgocast, and you can support us and get some sweet swag and be a part of what we're doing to help us make it better. But let me just tell you, like I tell all of our good friends, go to iTunes, go to the podcast store, and leave us 5 stars and a positive review. Write some of your deepest, darkest secrets right there.
Ooh.
Yeah. Let it be a confessional. Tell us some crazy stuff. It doesn't even have to be about the show. Just write some stuff in there and give us 5 stars. That helps us in the ratings. So there you go.
So good. All right.
How's your retractable pants? They good?
They're good. They're
Put them on, everybody. Retractable pants.
I'm retracting.
New 52. There you go. I hope Wonder Woman has retractable pants in the next movie. They're
yeah, I think that'd be a good idea.
Yeah, sure.
All right, well, and with that, I am Matt.
I'm Justin.
Let's go.
Let's go.